Welcome to the Data Product Management in Action podcast, created and executive produced by me, Scott Hurlman, and brought to you by SODA, your best friend in data quality and contracts tooling. We created this podcast to serve as a place for actual practitioners bringing product management practices to data, whether that is to AI and ML, data products, platforms, or everything else in data, right? And it's to dig into the nitty-gritty of product management in data, but in fun and dynamic conversations. It's not just lift and shift from software product management. We have a great set of hosts for you that are also practitioners, so they can really get into those specifics and dive deep and get you the information you want to know rather than just high level, here is what a data product is. This is about cutting through the noise of data product management to drive towards actionable insights, hence the actual podcast name, Data Product Management in Action. So sit back and enjoy another awesome conversation. Your host today is Frannie Helforoush, Technical Product Manager of the Data Platform and Data Product Manager at RBC Global Asset Management. A reminder that all hosts and guests are only representing their own views.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Data Product Management in Action podcast. I'm your host, Frannie Helforoush, and today we are going to have a great conversation with my lovely guest, Deepti Surabattula. In today's episode, we are going to focus on user and stakeholder involvement and how Deepti is managing all of those relationships and more. So please welcome Deepti. Hi, welcome to the podcast, Deepti.
Thank you, Frannie. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Let's start with the introduction. Can you please introduce yourself, your background, and your current role?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a principal data product manager in a biotech pharma company. I work in the data science department in global IT. I've had more than 15 years of experience in the industry. I worked in multiple different industries also, like aerospace and medical devices. I also have a master's and a PhD in industrial engineering, focusing on human factors. I do use a lot of my human factors skill set when I'm actually talking to the stakeholders and thinking through their user needs and thinking through the processes that they're having issues with. So there's really a lot that I have learned in my coursework and during my work in the industry also that I really utilize there.
This is very interesting. We'll come back to that for sure. Thank you so much. Also, can you tell us a little bit about your product, your team? What are you working on right now? Like what type of data products you're working right now, and how do you see your day-to-day work in relation with the data product?
Yeah, definitely. So I lead a team, and in my organization we call them squads. And I lead a squad that has really talented individuals. We have data product analysts, we have Power BI engineers, data engineers, and also Scrum Masters. Then the products that my team really supports is very integral to the drug development and delivery process. So we support a lot of the organizations in global quality, in product supply, in medical affairs, translation sciences, product and portfolio management, to name a few of these. A really interesting fact of the team is that when I joined the organization last year in January, this was a new team that was formed end of March. And we had actually inherited a lot of Power BI reports that was built 5 or 6 years before. So a big part of what we really focused on is reinvigorating all of these reports. And that was a slow process that we went through. Doing the reinvigoration, we started off with stakeholder engagement, getting to know them, and building trust with them, and then building partnership with them to work as collaborators, and then deliver these products to them. So I think that is like a really big part of what my team did. Another thing that my team really focused on is building these Power BI reports that can be validated because we also are working in a regulated environment. And sometimes these reports also need to be used to show compliance to regulatory guidance or to make business decisions. So that's also a big thing that my team did, was to be able to validate a lot of these reports, so that it was taking them almost 40 hours to build all of these reports. And from 40 hours, we actually reduced the time to insights by 5 minutes. And so at that time, they can really use that. From 40 hours, it went down to 5 minutes, and they can also use that for filing regulatory compliance. So that, I think, was one big achievement that my team.
Oh, that's so cool. So speaking of that human factor again, I really want to start off with that and going into the product management and stakeholder management. How do you use that knowledge? Because I know that you use it a lot, and that is very, very useful for every product manager to use such a knowledge about, human and behavior and anything related to know how your customer or your stakeholder will behave and then act upon it. So how do you use that knowledge in your benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. To first start off, I would say it's important to understand what human factors is. So human factors is the best way to describe is the bridge between psychology and engineering. So we use psychology principles to build products that can be used by humans. So if you look at a lot of these data products, they are going to be used by humans, right? So it's really important to understand first their needs, the data needs. As part of human factors, what we usually do is go and observe how the users work in their natural environment, try to understand their workflow, and then try to understand what their real issues are, and then provide solutions to that. So very similarly, what we see with the data products is that it's important to understand what problem are our stakeholders or customers trying to solve, because a lot of times they have done this before, right? So they've already used these type of products. They've already found workarounds for the issue problems, and they usually come with solutions. It's like, hey, I want you to build X, Y, and Z, so it solves my problem. So it is I've used a lot of the human factors principles to kind of divert or focus mainly on what problem are you trying to solve. And then that actually, to a lot of my customers, when I ask that question, it's really eye-opening for them, because then they start talking about how they're going to use that data, and what steps do they take to do that, which opens up a lot of other possibilities. So I think that is one of the big things that I do. Also, getting them involved in this product development. So it's I've also noticed, like, a lot of times they see us as service providers, like, hey, here's a problem, solve it for me, and I get the solution. But when the stakeholders are really interested and involved in the development of the product, then as collaborators, it's a different type of interaction that you have. They're vested in building this product. They're vested in building a good product. And as we take them through this journey of building the data product, they're also able to understand the nuances in their data, what can be done and what cannot be done. It also helps them to see a wide range of things that they can do, because they might have just focused on I just need to solve this one tiny problem. That's all I need. But once they see the data in what we call the data explorer, they see all of the data in one location. They're like, oh, this actually helped me understand what else I can do with this data. So those are all some of the things that I have done. One other thing I would also want to emphasize is, as all humans, right, we want to be listened to. We want people to hear us. So I think that's also a big fact that I actually bring in for my human factors, is allow the users to talk about their pain points and then acknowledge that what their problems are real, and we're here to solve their problems. So those are some of the things that I would say that we really use for the stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, that reminds me of that empathy mapping and all the frameworks. Do you use any specific frameworks, like design thinking or empathy mapping or anything that there's out there to document or to showcase your stakeholders?
Yeah, definitely. We use design thinking a lot, and we use a lot of like product thinking. So that's definitely what we focus on. And also part of like empathy based engagement, right? So that's also a big part of what we do. And we also follow user centered design principles to build all of these data products that we have. So these are all some of the principles that already exist that we use in our product development.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Also, do you have any specific rule of how often you involve them? Like the cadence, you say, okay, I have to have meetings once a week, twice a week, or it depends on the type of the product that you're building for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we start doing in our squad or our team is we split the engagement model into two. So we have the stakeholders who are at the higher level in the company as a senior director or VP level. And then we also have subject matter experts who are really the scientists and analysts who have the most knowledge about the data and who are really using that data every day. So the way we work is I engage with the stakeholders who are at the VP or director, senior director level to build the strategy and then the product roadmap that we want to build to meet the user needs. And then we also ask them to identify subject matter experts who can then work with my team to build this report. So I engage with the stakeholders at least once a month. That's the minimum. Or for some stakeholders where we are continuously working and there's more products that we're building, I would meet them every 2 weeks. And then the team that's actually the product development team consists of a subject matter expert. We have a data product analyst, a Power BI engineer, and then a data engineer. So they're actually form the team that's delivering this report or the product, and they are meeting weekly to discuss the work. And what we've done is every week when we're engaging with them, we're able to show them some data. So we're able to show them that here's the data that we have gotten from the system. And then here's the data now in a Power BI report in the form of a data explorer. So every week we engage with them, and monthly or bi-monthly, when we have the stakeholder engagement, we then show them also the product that we are building for them.
That is wonderful. I really love that you actually use exact same methods that every other product manager would use in digital world. It doesn't really matter if it's a data product. It can be like a digital software product or a mobile app or whatever, but you use exact same method as stakeholder involvement and discovery, and then demoing that and constant feedback, and then, iterating and all of this for your data product. And that's exactly how it should be and how it should be done. So I really hope that it gives the listeners an idea to try here and there. Okay, maybe we do this and maybe we do that. So thank you so much for sharing. I personally noticed that there is a wide range of reactions from stakeholders when you involve them. Some are very grateful, some are very encouraging and really are thankful that you ask them for their opinions or their pain points, or, oh, finally someone is listening to me. And on the other side of the spectrum, there are some users and stakeholders that, because they repeated the ask a lot of time before, so they get not so happy when you go and ask them again about, okay, now I'm new to this team. I've been joined a year ago. Now explain what are your pain points. And they are just coming back and say, I explained it thousands of times. I'm not doing that again, right? So, and rightfully so. I totally understand them. But how do you deal with those type of challenges?
Oh, first, I would say thank you so much for the question. I don't know if the listeners can see, but I'm really smiling the whole time you were talking about this question, because it's almost like you're repeating my experience back to me. Yeah, it's so relatable. So yeah, definitely. As I was saying earlier, when we created this team, we had inherited a lot of reports that were built like 4 or 5 years ago. And we also noticed that those reports have gone through multiple hands. So the original person who built those reports was no longer in the company. And then people who knew and had knowledge about how that was built were no longer in the company. What we felt is, even if we were making minor changes to those reports, because we didn't know how the back-end modeling was, they were breaking. So what we did is, we first approached the stakeholders, and we kind of introduced ourselves, and then we kind of at the same time told them like, hey, we want to learn more about this product so we can help you. And I would be open and honest, like it kind of like really backfired on us at that time, because we've done all of this before. So what I did at that point is that I can understand, like you said, that we've told this like multiple times to multiple individuals, so go talk to them. So that's where this model that we have of collaborators really worked, because the stakeholders who were involved were higher level people, and they didn't have time to work with us and to build this model. So what we did is we really said, hey, is there anybody in your team that we can really work closely with that? And we built that relationship with that subject matter expert who was an analyst. And while we were working, my team was working with them, I was working with the stakeholder to build that relationship. And what we did is that every week we tried to show them the advancements that we have done, right? So we have started working on this report. So I think from both ways, from my engagement with the stakeholder and also with the teams, a very close engagement with the subject matter expert, we were able to build that trust with them, and that we're doing kind of the right thing, right? Sometimes, and it is hard for our stakeholders to understand the nuances in building these models, because they're only seeing the front end. So the front end is maybe 10, 15% of the work, but a big part of the work is the back end, the modeling that you're doing. So they slowly were able to understand, and they became our biggest advocates. And that was the really cool thing for us to see, that they became our biggest advocates and talked about our work to others outside. So that's the approach that we have taken. And I think also approaching it with a lot of empathy, right? Because we need to also put ourselves in their shoes to say, like, if we have told something 5 times or multiple times and the team changes, it would be frustrating for us too. So to understand where they are coming from. And also, I sometimes believe, like, even apologizing, it's okay, we're sorry that you have to go through this again with us, and we really apologize for taking up your time. I think that also goes a long way in building this relationship.
Yeah, I love it. So empathy, increasing the visibility, and then just do it step by step, and using every type of roles or relationship that you can to build that trust again. That was the answer. So that's very good. Thank you so much. How do you explain concepts to them? So they may work with data sets, tables, schemas, data packages, but they may not know what data product is, right? And they may not even know that how do you do product management in software product, yet alone the data products, right? So how do you explain concepts to them? What was the most challenging concept that you had to explain over and over again for that to sink in and for people to understand your language?
Yeah, again, I feel that's a great question. I think the big part is to understand the knowledge that each person brings to the table. So if you look at the stakeholders, customers, they have deep knowledge of the data, and they have deep knowledge of their processes. And on the other side, we have deep knowledge on data products and how to build data products and how do we use their data to build these products. So I think it's really to acknowledge what each party brings to the table. The other thing, what I have always felt really useful is showing. And instead of telling, the showing. So for example, we have seen where there might be a text field that is used to enter data into the database. But when we look at the backend, we cannot really compare the data across because each person is entering the data different ways, right? So what we have done is to actually show them like, hey, this is the requirement that you've asked, and this is the data that we have. And based on this data, as you can see, this text field has multiple ways of entering the information. So it is difficult for us to analyze that and understand how to categorize it. So that clicked to them. And it's like, oh, now we know that this cannot be a text field. It has to be a dropdown. So I think a big part what I've seen is helping them and involving them in the process helps them understand how their data is used, right? So that I think is a big part that I have seen where when they see how the data that they are entering is showing up in the database and how much cleaning needs to be done before we can build the reports, that helps them. And in my experience, what's also happened is they've become the biggest advocates and they've actually introduced that data governance in their own organizations and built processes so we can have more and more clean data. So that is, and then that's been really powerful. On the other side, when we're just looking at, I'll give you an example. I've been working with this team that they had a logic that they had built, but the logic that they had built could be interpreted in multiple ways by a human. And then we were trying to replicate that logic in a report. So when you're replicating that in a report, it has to be very unambiguous is the best word I can use there. So then when we actually really sat down with them and we went through their logic in a flowchart, and then we were able to point to them like the nuances that they have, which is then difficult to replicate in the actual logic. And what we also did is we built the report just showing them the raw data, and we were able to kind of walk them through their logic, and they were able to understand like, oh, I see where you're having the problem. So I think these are two different ways to kind of help them understand the slight nuances that will be there between how a human would interpret the process and how the machine would need to interpret the logic. So these are all different ways that we have used. Another way that I've used is also to use analogies that would be close to the kind of work that they're doing, right? So then they can relate to those analogies. Yeah, these are some of the different tools that I have used.
I believe it all came from your human factor knowledge for sure, especially the analogy thing. Is there any concept or term that you want to explain even to the audience here that you've been asked for a lot of time? I remember we talked about like data product versus software product before, like that was in your mind when we chatted a long time ago. But do you have anything in your mind, any term that you want to clarify for everyone that this is how I define this term?
I think more than term, what I would really want to focus on is implementation process, right? So we have so many different types of implementation process. You have the waterfall model, you have the agile methodologies. Um, so what I would really want to, just throw it out to the audience too is, as product managers, I feel we need to think about what is the best approach for doing the implementation. It may not fit into a specific box of implementation methodologies. We may start with something that exists and then modify it based on the data products that we're building. So one example that I would give is we started off with a Scrum model, a 2-week sprint model. And then we realized that, where we start in the beginning of the sprint was like, yeah, we're going to get the data and then we're going to do this work. But until we look at the data and we get the data, we cannot really determine how the timeline and how things would work. So a lot of what we felt is that we cannot, in the beginning of a sprint, promise that this is what we're going to implement by the end of the sprint. And then by the time we come to the end of the sprint, sometimes the data may not be available or the data may not be in the format that we needed. So we really moved to a Kanban methodology of implementation, which actually increased the efficiency with which we were working in the team. And it also improved the relationship that we had with our customers because we were able to respond to their requests much quicker. And so that's one thing that I will say that I really learned in my product management journey in this organization is that it really depends on the type of product that you're building, where you have to really modify your implementation process to fit that and not the other way.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I agree with you 100%. Do you have any product that is like a core data product without any interface, without any reports, for example, on top that you can show, and that's like pure data packages, for example, that you have a little bit of a challenge, showcase, or demo to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like you say, like a lot of people, it's the interface that actually makes a lot of sense to them, right? Than the core data product. We have one data product that we really work on that is we built these data from 3 different sources and combine them together and provide this view to another organization, and that is entered into their own system. So I think, and that doesn't have an interface. We're just combining data from 2 different sources, building the view, and then providing it to them. So that part, I would say the people who we work with, they really have in-depth knowledge of the data itself. So the way we can showcase the data for them is we generate an Excel spreadsheet and send them the Excel spreadsheet for them to verify that this data is accurate. And that's the way that we have tried to do it. And other parties who are involved have really deep knowledge of all of the queries and everything. So they're very involved in this. But it's definitely a question that I would also leave out there. Like if you have stakeholders who are not don't have a depth of knowledge in data science and data products, how do you showcase these core products to them? That is still, I think, an open question that we're still figuring out.
Yeah, exactly. How do you showcase the data products to them, and how do you ask them to do the UAT, the user acceptance testing? Because then that will be so hard, and either you have to convert that into a little bit more tangible result, like you said, the Excel sheet for them to approve or sign off on that, or you don't get the sign off until it turns into a report, and then that will be too late, and then you have to go back and fix something. So that's for sure a great challenge. My last question, and then I'll give you a little bit of an open question or open time that you just talk about your however you want to end this episode. But do you conduct user interviews as it's like purely defined in, for example, design process and product management, that you gather sample users to talk about their experience and their pain points, and then gather just all of those notes, not necessarily to just build what they are telling you, but just to get more like information and a little bit more knowledge about the need? Or that will be a specific, like your user interviews will be specific to the product they were been asking for or the needs that they were asking for. Like, I mean, do you do a little bit discovery to find out, okay, maybe this is also needed, like apart from what the ask was, or you're just sticking to, usually that project or product that you...
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I engage with the stakeholders, and as we said, like we were a new team, and there were a lot of different organizations that I was supporting. The first meeting, a couple of meetings that I had with each stakeholder was more of user interviews, right? So, and to prepare for the user interviews, what I also did is try to research on the company like website for what this organization does, and to have some knowledge on that. And then the first couple of meetings with them was to really understand their process, understand where they sit in the organization, and just overall, like what are their pain points in the data itself. So it was a very broad and not focused on any data product, but very broadly to understand their current state. And from that current state is where we could identify some different data products that we could build to address the pain points. And then we would, like, what I would do is like work with them to say, like, these are the products that we can build, and this is what would we want to focus on. So the first couple of meetings was definitely a lot of the kind of like user interviews, right? But ask a lot of open-ended questions so we can get more information from them about their processes. I've also worked on like documenting the processes to also understand how the data from different organizations flows. So connecting the dots between the organizations. The other part that I think what I've also helped or try to understand is if two organizations that share data, are they talking to each other, and connecting that for them. So those are all the different methods that I've used. I would also say that when it comes to focusing on specific data product and then understanding that data product, that is usually the data product analyst in my team who work on that. And I work more at the higher strategy level to understand the overall data needs of that organization or multiple organizations.
Yeah.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you so much. Okay, your last words, anything you want to talk about or emphasize on?
The last words I would say, to be honest, is have fun. Because to me, working with data, looking at connecting the dots with the data and seeing how powerful data is always been a lot of fun. Also, talking to the stakeholders and understanding the gaps, and then when we're actually able to build something that really helps them, I think that is something that really drives me at the end of the day. It would be the best day for me if somebody comes and says that, hey, your product that you built actually saved time for us, and this is very useful for us. So that for me is one of my best days. So that's the only thing I would like to say is like, have fun.
Yeah, it's very rewarding for sure. Thank you so much, Deepti. It was a great conversation. I really hope the audience also gained a little bit or two from that conversation. I for sure gained a lot. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we talk to you again in this podcast.
Thank you, Frannie, for having me here.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you got some great actionable insights out of this episode. We're so excited to dig deeper into data product management and its many facets. If you want to engage more with the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn and check out Soda's website at soda.io for more related content around product management in data. And if you are a practitioner bringing product management practices to data and want to potentially be a guest, please check the show notes for a link to apply. And as always, we strongly encourage people from underrepresented groups in tech to apply. Much as I'm a handsome devil, we don't want all our guests only looking like me. So again, let's get excited for more digging into data product management in action.